Hello and welcome to the Disc of Truth. I'm Jono.
And I'm James.
And as you know, in the Disc of Truth, we talk about everything and anything. And today we're going to be talking about renting. But before we go into that, just if you have been following us, if you have been listening, thank you very much for doing that so far. And just remember to leave a like, leave a comment, and if you have any ideas or suggestions on what you want us to talk about, then just let us know and we'll see what we can do. But as going back to the topic at hand today, we're going to be talking about renting, also known as letting. So the idea of renting a property from someone to live in, and both of us have plenty of experience doing that. I personally have been living, renting and living on my own, blah 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 blah. Since about the age of, I'm not counting uni, that doesn't count. So from roughly the age of 22, maybe.
Okay.
Soon
It's
around
been
that
a while
time.
then, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been about a decade now of doing that sort of thing. What about you, James? How long have you been renting? What's your, how long have you been experiencing it?
So, I mean, my original plan was I wanted to save up to actually have a place of my own, and that's not been the easiest thing. So I've had two places that I've rented, and I've been out renting for about 6-7 years, I'll say. So it's been a big portion, I'd say. Yeah.
So you've been a rent boy for about 6 years now, yeah?
Yeah. You could call me a professional now.
A professional rent boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
You were going to squeeze that in there somewhere. And I really wish I chose better words then as well, but never mind.
I was absolutely waiting to just spring that on you. Anyway. All right. So, I mean, to be fair, that was about my plan, to be honest. I rented my first property. I moved to be a bit closer to work, just make it a bit easier. And I lived there for about 6 years. And then I sort of, during my time there, I came up with a plan, sort of a 5-year plan. It was actually a 5-year plan. I'd taken out a loan for a new car. My plan was to pay that off as soon as humanly possible, and then start putting money away, blah blah blah, to save up. And then I moved out of where I lived there and moved in with family and whatever to sort of finish off my savings and get ready to buy a house. That time passed and I realised that I fucking hated my job. So that kind of threw a bit of a wrench in the works. And new job, and here I am renting again. So yeah. But no, it's fine. I mean, I've had some interesting experiences the past couple of months with renting, so we'll come to that soon. But yeah, I mean, in general, what's your opinion on renting, James? How do you feel about it?
I think I've been quite lucky, I would say, with renting, because the two places that I've had, the landlords seem to have been all right, and the places are quite good, and I don't think particularly we're overcharged for stuff. But I do think there's a lot of places, especially around London, that it seems to be quite a negative thing. People have to rent because they haven't got the money to put deposits down for houses, and then a lot of people do end up getting taken advantage of. So because for me, if I'd have to move out of here, because we're privately renting and everything, so if the landlord decided one day they didn't want to rent anymore, then we'd have to leave, which is not great, and I'd be terrified trying to find somewhere else, because you do get, some people are good, some people are bad. But
I know all about the bad.
Yeah, you do. But I've been quite lucky with it.
Yeah, with our experiences, we do have some sort of tips and stuff like that we can maybe pass on, throughout the episode. So I'm going to talk about bad experiences with renting. Generally, the first place I stayed in, I lived there for 6 years. I had no issues whatsoever. It was quite nice. I had some weird experiences. I had some I had to get my one of my windows replaced once, because it was I think I told you this story before, but I was just sat there. It was middle of summer, so I had my windows open. I lived on the ground floor, minding my own business, and all of a sudden, a guy dropped from the sky. outside my windows.
As you do.
And then someone else, as you do, and someone else used my open window as a stepping stone to sort of climb down from the floor above me. And it turns out some people have been cuckooing, which is is an actual term. By all means, look into it. It's when you sort of do as a cuckoo do. You take over a net, you take over a nest, take over a property, and use that for nefarious means, so to speak. And yeah, but even then, like my landlord sorted that out pretty much within a day. Like, the caretaker came over and we sort of forced my window closed, so for security and whatever. But and yeah, they sorted out pretty sharpish. So my experience there was pretty good. They were alright. They got things sorted quite soon, and it was relatively cheap. It used to be a retirement home, so it was converted to be just a block of sort of flats, I guess.
Yeah.
My biggest piece of advice, though, I will give the first nugget of wisdom, as they call it, is to really have a look around, right? When you go and view the place, but don't just look at things in general. Look around the windows. Is there a smell of fresh paint, right? That actually can be worrying. Now, it goes without saying that a landlord is going to spruce the place up. Depending on how long the person has been living there beforehand, a little bit of wear and tear. So a fresh coat of paint isn't something necessarily to be wary about. But with ground floor flats, really think about it. Really take note of some things, because damp is an issue. Damp is a big issue, and so I know I've been talking a lot. I've gone sort of into story mode here, but but I got a new job. I started that in. It is now, as of this recording, is May even.
It's May, yeah.
I started that job at the start of March, and for it I had to move away from where I was living, and the timing was terrible for viewing properties, and the distance was quite far to travel as well. So I made the decision to not view the property physically. I was not physically there. So I had a video sent to me of the estate agent moving around the property, blah, blah, blah. And it all looked okay. I thought, I'll give it a go. I'll move in, blah, blah, blah. Moved in, and then the issues sort of became noticeable. So that ground floor flats, well, for a start, right, I'll come. Actually, no, I'll come to that in a bit. The letting agent was a moron, and I will never, ever, ever use them again. But I'll come to that soon. So the issue with ground floor flats is there is a potential for damp issues, and in like as I said, my previous property that I rented for 6 years was a ground floor flat, and I never had a single issue with damp. There was nothing at all. There was no rising damp. There was no penetrating damp. There was no condensation that causes damp issues. Blah blah blah. So this so you can forgive my naivete, because
thinking, oh yeah, it should be all right. It's been all right before, yeah.
Yeah, because I had experience living in a ground floor flat for 6 years and never had a problem. So I thought, oh okay, blah blah blah, it must be fine. But yeah, I mean, I would never make that mistake again. So anyway, so I move into this property, and I noticed that on the windows, both in the bedroom and in the lounge, there was condensation, right? And not a normal level of condensation. I'm talking condensation where the windows and window handles and skirting boards were, I guess the only word for it is drenched every single day. Unless it was a bit warmer, though, it was the same every day. And the landlord had left sort of a booklet of how to deal with damp, basically, which made me think, okay, she knows that this
knows
is
there's
an
an
issue,
yeah.
right? And damp around the edges of the actual window, of the actual glass, that is normal.
It's just condensation. Yeah,
that is a normal level of condensation. But if the entire window is covered, there is something wrong. There is absolutely something wrong, right? So then I had rising damp. So just if you don't know, so rising damp is when water essentially gets into the very walls themselves, and well, as the term suggests, it rises
up the walls.
From up the walls, so you can see visible patches on the wall that are wet, all in one sort of continuous part. And obviously, if it's damp, that can then lead to mold and so on and so forth. So I had that, and also the floors themselves were damp. So, and on top of that, the rising damp was happening around an area where there was a electrical socket, and I actually got a minor electrical shock from that socket itself. That spurred my decision to leave. So I'd only been living there for, at this point, for about a month. And
it's quite a quick accumulation of all this, because you would hope and think that in the time that the place has been vacant, that they would, as you say, spruce it up. So the fact that it's been a month and it's gotten to that stage again, it's gonna get a heck of a lot worse if you'd have been there for longer.
Yeah, I mean, so the landlord is what I can only describe as delusional. She basically said that there was no issues with the previous tenant. The previous tenant never had any issues. Blah blah blah. She actually includes a dehumidifier in the property, which you can use to, obviously try and counteract that. I did try it. It did fuck all. But I mean, the only thing you can really do regarding that, I mean, the rising damp, but there was absolutely fuck all I could do about that.
Yeah,
but the condensation, yeah, I mean, the condensation issue, that would have been on me to, dry off the windows every day. But that level of water is stupid. Like, essentially, in the leaflet, it was like, oh, dry off the condensation with like a rag or a towel or whatever, blah blah blah. Like that is soaking through a towel every single day.
Yeah.
Like, and because the place is damp and not, and clothes just weren't drying in the first place. So I put a water load on to wash, right?
Yeah.
And after a week, that stuff is still not wet, still not dry. Sorry, so much so that it started to smell. Right, so there's clearly something wrong with this property. Right, so after I have this electric shock, I give the landlord a call and I'm like, look, I don't feel safe here. Like, there is seriously a damp issue in this place. I do not feel safe. I've had an electric shock. Blah blah blah. So her suggestion is, to be fair, at this point, she was all right. She was like, okay, there's a top floor flat that is available. What we'll do is, if me and you will go and view it. If you like it, we'll come up with a new contract, blah blah blah, and we'll move you out. We don't need to get the estate agents involved. I'll just tell them that it will be flat 2 that's available from then on, not flat whatever number it was.
Yeah.
So I go and view it, and to be honest, the place just was shit in general. It had a very old timey feel. It had a water heater, a water storage heater, not a boiler. So, like how the ground floor flat did, and it was so bad and so cost inefficient that to get hot water, you have to run it for about 2 hours. I had a smart meter and I could see how much that was racking up, right? So in the end, I was just using my damn kettle to get fucking hot water.
Jeez.
My shower was fine. The shower was an electric shower, so it obviously heated the water. But
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
other
if you
than
wanted
that,
to wash dishes or anything like that, yeah, it's not.
yeah. So what I did is I made a cup of tea in the morning and then used the remaining kettle water to fucking do my washing up. So it just wasn't a pleasant experience. So
Mm.
in the end, I did say to the landlord, "Look, I'm not happy here. I'm not safe. Um, I might not have the damp issues in the top floor flat, but it's just there's something fucking wrong here." And she's absolutely fucking delusional. She's like, "No, it's just a condensation issue. You clearly haven't been wiping it away," which, in all fairness, I hadn't been. Um, but she just didn't want to have any notice of the rise in damp.
Mm.
So in the end, I broke contract. I had to pay to break the contract. I did try to fight it, but I couldn't be asked in the end. And I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna fucking move out. I found this new place that I'm in now. Oh my god, it's a damn sight better. But Jesus Christ, I had to clean my bed frame because I had mold on it. I had to treat the bottom of my mattress because I had mold on it. I had to throw away a pair of shoes because they were moldy. Like, like it was just not a fun experience. And
No, it
so,
doesn't sound great.
so to come back to my advice is with ground floor flats, really, really take note. Like, really just if there is a fresh coat of paint, do not be afraid to just inquire why. And if they're like other landlords, blah blah blah, I'd be like, well, I'd like to just know about damp issues. If any estate agent looks at you and says you cannot get rising damp in a ground floor flat,
Yeah,
walk away.
Yeah.
Walk away right now, because that person is a fucking idiot. My estate agent, the estate agent who doing that, I after I moved out, I went into the estate agents to speak to them to just say, look, I'm concerned that the landlord is not going to do anything about these issues, and she's just going to rent it out to the next poor sod who's going to come along and think it's okay. She's just going to do a fresh coat of paint over the place to get rid of the damp smell, and she can give it to some poor sod who's then going to have the same fucking problems. The estate agent looked me in the eye and said, you cannot get rising damp in a ground floor flat. And I said to her, I have a picture that says fucking otherwise. And she did not want anything to do with it. Like, and I was like, how? How can you not get rising damp in a, like, what is it about a ground floor flat that makes it, that is built differently? And the answer to that is nothing. You can get rising damp anywhere. Anywhere that is ground floor, you can get rising damp. And that is just fact. The issue there is that, so when a place is built, the mortar, the walls are treated with like essentially with like water repelling stuff that stops these damp issues.
Yeah.
Over time, that can degrade.
Yeah.
That is normal, right? That is normal. So all it needs is they need to be retreated. And for whatever reason, this estate agent is they still are an idiot. And I just don't get it. I don't get it. And I'm in this place now. It is a first floor flat. I don't think I'll ever, if I ever rent again after this place, if I don't not buying a place, if I ever rent somewhere again, I will never go for ground floor ever again. Ever.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a great experience, and it goes in towards, because my issue, and I'll play devil's advocate here. I do understand that there are people out. I won't get fully into my feelings on it, but people who rent places, they're doing it as a business. They've got to make money. However, there are people who very, very much walk that line where you've got, would you live in that household yourself that you're renting? Most of them probably not. And people end up getting rented to who, potentially are quite vulnerable or don't have much to themselves. They have to, otherwise they're homeless, kind of thing. And yeah, a lot of places do get, people take advantage of them, and that's unfair. And it does sound like you've got someone who's just basically gone, yeah, I've got a building, someone will buy it off me and give me this money, and I will do as little as possible to keep it going. And if you don't like it, well, someone else can come in and deal with it until they find someone who's willing to put up with it or doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
That's the bad side of it. And, I very, very much dislike that, if it's very true. If you've got money, you'll always have money if you put it in the right places. So you have money to buy your own house, and then you buy other houses, which then you rent out. I'm not going to get into the whole I think that's bad for the economy kind of thing. There's less houses to buy because people keep renting them, and then you get some landlords like that who just don't pay attention to it, and and then someone who does eventually actually buy it off them, they've got to do a lot of work to it, which is causing more problems. But what I will go on to, which you touched upon, so I quite like my landlord. I've got no issues with him, and I'm quite lucky that he lives quite close, because the landlord's fine, but he has multiple different buildings. So he's got an estate agent or a letting agent that helps, and the letting agent is fucking garbage. Like, I've got no problems with the landlord. You speak to him, he gets stuff sorted. Place is quite nice. I think he's done a good job of it. But with the estate agents, they just don't seem, mine at least, do not seem to care about anything. You'll have the inspections, and we're like, bring something up, and they'll be like, okay, well, we'll sort that, and they'll come back and be like, you still having these issues? And I'm like, yes, because you did nothing about it. If I go to the landlord, they sort it. The letting agents do absolutely nothing. I very much enjoyed making sure the house was all lovely and tidy for an inspection that they never turned up for, and then had the guts next time they came around 6 months later to be like, well, you did really well on the last inspection. I was like, you didn't turn up to it. What are you on about? Whose house were you at? So, yeah, I think the more people who get involved in it, it can be worse. But it's a necessary evil, but it doesn't need to be as evil.
Yeah, it's ridiculous as well. Like the flat next door to me, in the damp flat. I'm just going to call it the damp flat.
Waterworld.
The flat next door to me was apparently just as bad.
Really? Is this owned by the same person as well?
Yep, the entire building is owned by her. So
right, okay.
I went for the inventory, the final inventory. I turned up, and it's done by independent people, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I turned up, and I met the bloke, and he told me that the flat next door, number one, was just as bad. And the thing is, it kind of made sense, because I'd been seeing the the person in there doing work on the flat, and they were in there for a good couple of weeks. So,
wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean, so realistically, like, what were they doing in that time? Like, they had to repaint the entire place, sure, probably, but like, what else did they have to do? Like, how bad was it that this person, and like, it really does make me worried for those people who live in that building, because what I should have done really is I should have, it's a tough one, really. What you meant to do is you meant to complain to the landlord, blah blah blah. But when I complained to her, she didn't really seem that interested in trying to fix the issue. I dropped her an email saying, like, look, I'm not happy, blah blah. I'm going to break contract, all this stuff. And I mentioned again about the socket. And it was only then, after I'd emailed, like, she came over and I showed her which socket gave me the electric shock and everything. And it was only after I emailed that she was like, "Oh, we'll get that. We need to get that." Someone.
Do you think it was potentially she was worried that you'd report it and be like, "I've had this; it's unsafe"? Because I bet if you'd have gone, "Yeah, I'm actually going to take you to court over this," if someone looked at the house,
I should have done though. I should have got the council involved.
Yeah, you should have done, because especially at the moment, things to do with damp and things to do with black mold is quite a big thing. Because I don't know if someone died from it, or if they were ill, but there was some flats in London that were just, landlords were doing nothing about, and they were just encrusted with black mold, and people were getting really ill.
A child ended up dying from it,
and that's awful, because you'll have families living there quite literally in like a poison pit, and they have no other solution, and it's people preying on people more unfortunate, and it's just it is rubbish. And at least you were lucky enough to go, no, I'm just gonna go. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, I mean, I ended up having to drop like $1,000 to sort of get myself out,
which is bad, because you've actually essentially had to pay to put yourself in a safe place, where you're not going to get electrocuted. But you yourself at least are lucky enough to do that, and you're in a place now. Like,
I had the money. Had the money spare. Like, I had to dive into the money I've been saving for a house again to move myself out there. But yeah, if I'd stayed there longer, like, I mean, yeah, I could have started wiping down those things every day and gone to the landlord like, look, do you really think that this is something that you should have to deal with? Like I said to the estate agent, she was like, oh, I have to what did she say? It was like HVAC or something, her windows every day, and I was like, that's not normal.
No, it's not.
I said to her, I was like,
It's
that's
not
not
normal.
normal. I was like, I lived in a ground floor flat for 6 years. I never touched the windows in regards to condensation. Like, I never had to wipe down the windows. I never had mold issues. The only mold issues I had with that ground floor flat was in the fucking bathroom. And where's the most likely place you're going to get mold in a building? It is in the bathroom. It's a place where there is wet a lot of time, like where there is a shower. Like, that's normal. You regularly clean down your tiles because you don't want to get mildew, you don't want to get damp. That's a normal thing. That's a normal thing.
Because for us, we give the house a clean when it needs it, but I've never had a window that's been pissing condensation, and yeah, we've got a few issues in the bathroom, and to be honest, ours is doubly bad because it's a bathroom, it's ground floor bathroom, but it's an extension to the house, so it's built not as well as the rest of it. It's still good, but that's why we have as many issues in that particular room. But the rest of the house, yeah, if I was having to wipe all that stuff down day by day, my response would be okay, how do I tackle this? Like, this is a problem, not, I'm going to get up and wipe the windows today.
Yeah, like I did it one day where I did actually wipe down the windows, whatever, and I think I used kitchen roll. And I mean, the amount of kitchen roll I went through to get those windows dry was absolutely insane. And then on top of that, if I was to use a towel, that is a completely soaked towel every single day in a flat where things don't dry. What am I going to do there?
Yeah, no, it's not great. And for a fact that if your landlord was if it was their house that was doing it, they'd throw as much money at it as possible to stop that issue.
To be fair, she was also like, oh, I have to use dehumidifier. I live in a bungalow. I have to use dehumidifier in mine. It's like, okay, well, using a dehumidifier is normal. Okay, well, it can be normal. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But it doesn't do shit if your windows are fucking soaked.
Exactly. Yeah, there is a limit to what it can do.
Yeah, like that is an insane amount of condensation. Which means it's going to do nothing. You're going to have to empty that dehumidifier 5-6 times a day if you're running it all the time. Which in this current climate, you can't be running like additional. Well, you don't really want to be running additional things that you might not necessarily need to be running in the first place.
That's true. It is nowadays a much bigger cost.
Yeah.
So
it's just stupid. Honestly, so. As I said, we've thrown out some nuggets of wisdom, as I'm calling them.
Yes. Well, the only nugget of wisdom I would give, just because I don't have a long story with mine. Mine's just a tip to go alongside your tip.
Yeah.
So when viewing a flat in person, which we've learned from you, do it in person no matter what. I know you were struggling, but definitely don't do that again. But try and book the latest slot to see it as possible, so that there's the most amount of people are going to be home.
I would disagree.
Okay, so how come?
I would disagree.
Go on.
So I would actually book the earliest time you can.
Okay.
Right? Purely if the flat is vacant, right? You want to be going to the earliest possible time you can, because it means that no one has been able to go in and solve any sort of problems before you got there.
Okay. So the reason why I'm saying stuff is, I mean, you could do a different time. So when I viewed my very first flat, because I'm talking about parking.
Right.
So we went there and the entire street was completely empty, and they were like, yeah, it's on street parking, it's fine. And when we moved in, like, there was it looked like just a completely different place. Like, every house had like 4 cars, and sometimes you'd have to park like a few minutes down the road, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I mean,
but yeah, your thing of they haven't had time to go in and doubly spruce it up so it's perfect for you. That's a good point. I just would want to be around for the most amount of people to be home, so you can get an understanding of what it's actually like there.
Yeah, because I mean, if you walk in, like say for example, let's talk. We'll go back to the damp flat.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, go on.
We'll go back to the damp flat. Say I had been able to view it in person, right? I'd have walked in at say 9:30, and depending on the day, those windows might have been soaked, right? Because no one had gone in and been able to dry them off. So even though they may have had the windows slightly open, I might have gone in and seen that those windows are thoroughly soaked, and I'd been like, "Well, this ain't normal." And then I might have been like, "Okay, blah blah blah." But because first up, because I didn't physically go and view it myself, and also depending on the time of day, those windows might have been dried, or the estate agent might have dried them, or the landlord might have dried them, or someone might have dried them. So you don't notice that. So yeah, it
is a tough one, because I mean, if I was a landlord trying to hide something, I don't know how early they do appointments, but I don't think it's too difficult for them to go around even earlier. If you got an appointment at 9:00, there's nothing really stopping someone going at 7 before things open. I don't know. It is quite a difficult one. You shouldn't have something to hide, but if you have, then it is quite a tough one.
Yeah, it's not a fun experience. So I mean, yeah, well, I think that about sums it up for today's episode. I mean, yeah, as we've discussed, definitely biggest piece of advice: always view the property yourself in person.
100%.
Always, ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to look in cupboards. Don't be afraid to look over the place with a fine-tooth comb. Don't be afraid to look around windowsills. Look around for those signs that you're looking for. Look for.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Look for mold. Be wary of fresh paint. Not necessarily because they're trying to cover something. They're not always. They will go in and they will clean the place. They will give it a fresh coat of paint. That is fine. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to be living there, and you might be there for quite a while. I've been in this place for 4 years now.
Yeah, exactly. So don't be afraid to ask those questions and look and take your time. Right, these people, and ask the questions. Always also look at what's the parking situation like? What's the area like? What broadband can you get? What try and listen for sounds, stuff like that.
Because if you ask questions that they don't like answering, then there's a reason for that, and maybe you don't want the place anyway. So don't worry about that sort of thing. It's got to be right.
Yeah, and just trust your gut. If the place doesn't feel right, if the place looks old and kind of bit shit, and also if what's the heating system like? If it has a water storage heater, walk the fuck out. Right? If it has a water,
I actually haven't seen a place that's got that listed on it for so long.
It's like it's in a Stone Age. Honestly, if I'd known, right? If I'd known, I'd have never moved in. But I didn't realise.
Yeah, I get the impression if you had the chance to walk around, ask questions, and look, you wouldn't have gone for that place.
No, I don't think I would have at all. But yeah, I mean that's my own problem. This place that I'm in right now, I physically viewed it in person. I asked, knowing the issues about damp, I looked around all the windowsills and everything.
Well, yeah, you've made that mistake. You've learned from it, and you've done well out of it. So
yeah, exactly. And the landlord seems like he's sound, so it's fine. But yeah. So I mean, anyway, thank you very much for listening. That about brings us to the end of episode 7. As we said, we've been talking about renting, if you haven't figured that out by now. But if you've enjoyed today's episode, feel free to, as I said, leave us a like, leave us a comment. Again, any suggestions of what you want us to talk about, please
we'll talk about anything, even if we haven't got a clue about it, because why not? Everyone else does it on the internet, we should as well.
Exactly. We'll do a little bit of research beforehand. Can't promise it'll be good research, but we'll try and do a little bit. And if tell us your renting horror stories as well.
Yeah, I think everyone has got a story. It's the one, this generation as well, where renting is a lot more done, there is stories, isn't there? So everyone's had an experience, a bad place, or something they've walked away from.
Yeah, I mean, even not necessarily even like bad experiences. Have you any weird experiences, like the people dropping from the sky and breaking my windows, or my landlord deciding that the entire building needs new windows, which was lovely, by the way. It's fine. She, didn't have to pay anything for those, but then having to sit there shivering my ass off in the middle of January with no bloody windows on the wall. That was fun. But I mean, it was bad time in the bad part of the year to do it in, but in the end, it was brand new windows.
Well, at least you save money on heating, because what's the point turning it on? Because it's just going to go out the window.
I mean, tell us your stories. We want to know. But from me, and I'm sure from James as well. Thank you.
Yeah, why not? From me as well.
Thank you, thanks, James. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you all on the next episode. Cheers now. Bye bye.
Take care.